And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Outsiders podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, and I finally got that right. I am joined tonight by Gary Kester and Harrison Fagan. How you guys doing?
Well, we'd rather be playing Arkham Knight, but you dragged us on here, so.
Hey, to be fair, this was your idea. This was completely on you, as you
This is
know.
what we do. We're team players.
Gary, have you started Arkham Knight? Harrison was going on and on and on about it. I have no idea what's going on because I'm old.
I got to play it a little bit last night, but then I had to work early in the morning, so I had to get at least a couple hours of sleep.
That's, I guess. I mean, sleep is overrated. Batman never sleeps. So we're here to talk about, we've had a few couple, tidbits of news, especially yesterday. Yesterday was really, really busy. And, shout out to all the readers and everybody visiting the site. Yesterday was like our all-time greatest day ever, right?
Yeah, that's
I had a
awesome.
pretty good day. Oh, you mean the site? Yeah, the site was good too.
Yeah, whoever you murdered behind you might not have had as great a day. So, but the pieces that drove the news yesterday, or at least the name that drove the news yesterday, was DeMarcus Cousins. Gary, you saw his tweet, right?
Yeah,
That was awesome. That was up
that
there
was.
among the all-time great tweets from players ever, right?
Oh yeah, that was great, and the fact that like everybody kind of dug up the pass with, I think it was like Iguodala, Ty Lawson, Carmelo Anthony. There was all a common
J.R.
thing.
Smith was the other one.
Yeah, I mean, there was a common theme, them all basically saying the exact same thing. So,
But I
um,
wonder if George Karl calls other people snakes in the grass as like a derogatory thing, and so his player because how are all these guys coming up with like that exact terminology?
yeah, that was, I don't know, man.
It's
I
weird.
never used that phrase. So
I've
that's,
never used it once in my life.
yeah, like, I know what it means, but I don't know. I've never used it.
Yeah.
It's just weird that they all used it.
I used it once when I was mowing the lawn. I actually saw a snake, but aside from that, I've never actually used the phrase. Just kidding. I'm Mexican, but I don't know all the lawns. Um, Shout out to La Familia. No, so what was your takeaway, Harrison? What are the chances, would you say, that the Lakers or anybody lands Boogie? Do you think he's actually going to be moved?
Well, see, the alternative way to look at it is he was tweeting about snakes, and Kobe's name is the Black Mamba, and so 100%? No. I think it's probably pretty low, honestly. Crazier things have happened, but I just don't see the Lakers as willing to give up multiple assets to get him. When like they're like free agents this year, and then there's going to be a huge bonanza next year, and they could take probably a pretty good player with the number 2 pick.
Right. I mean, does DeMarcus Cousins make the Lakers that much more of a destination, Gary?
Well, I think it makes them a little more appealing with free agency next year. In terms of like immediate results, you're not going to get a whole lot, with him. And my whole worry with Cousins this whole time was like what it's going to take to get him. Because if you can get him without giving up Randall and Clarkson, and you get like some three-way deal where you're only giving up number 2 and maybe some veteran players like Nick Young or Jordan Hill or something like that, then by all means pull the trigger. But I'm not a fan of trading, one or two of the 3 main foundational pieces that we have for our future right now, in Clarkson, Randall, and that number 2 pick. So, but I mean, like I think he'd make him look a little more appealing as long as we didn't have to gut, our foundation to get him.
So, for me, I guess the toss-up or the trade-off is the sustainability that we're currently seeing with our rebuild or with the Lakers rebuild, is that worth giving up for somebody who immediately makes the Lakers, I would say, borderline playoff contenders, I would say. Not actual playoff contenders. He's not, an Anthony Davis. He's not LeBron or prime Kobe, who automatically you just chalked into being in the playoffs. But he is somebody who I'm not even sure we've seen the best of consistently yet. Right, Harrison? Would you say that
No.
because of the situation he's in, we may not have scratched the surface on this guy?
No, I mean, I've basically come to the conclusion that 50% of global warming is the tire fire from the Kings organization. Like last night was just a trip. I think you say his name Vivek Ranadive, their owner.
Hmm.
He comes out and says that there's like a less than zero chance they want to trade Cousins. 30 minutes later, Woj comes out and is saying that, George Karl's like frantically trying to move Cousins. And then Vlade Divac is apparently angrily calling reporters today to say that they're not trading Cousins and like, why are you talking about this? Um, it's just crazy the dissonance that's like there's something going on there.
Gary, if DeMarcus Cousins is moved and Vlade Divac is interviewed by Adrian Wojnarowski, who's reporting that Carl is trying to move DeMarcus Cousins, do you think we'll get another "it was lucky" shot from Vlade?
Yeah, and then I mean we're gonna have to grab Robert Ory off the Time Warner Cable's studio and get his classic response in there. But I mean, just going back to what you guys mentioned, that organization is such a mess right now. I thought that the Brooklyn Nets were a disaster, which they are, but the Kings, like, whenever you think that they're just like, you kind of set them aside, like, oh, the Knicks are terrible. It's like the Kings just have to jump in and be like, oh, we're terrible too. Don't forget about us.
Hello.
Yeah, the Kings just have a smaller fan base than the Knicks, so they don't get complained about as much, but like they're just as bad.
The whole front office is just a dumpster fire right now.
Which
Yeah.
is exactly why, right, Harrison? This is exactly why when people say, well, if Cousins is that good, why hasn't he sniffed the playoffs yet? I mean, don't you just need to say two words, Sacramento Kings? And
I
then
mean, he's played for like approximately like 92 head coaches in his like 5-year career. Um,
I'm gonna have to work to
like
confirm that
like
number.
7 different huh?
I said I'm gonna have to work to confirm that number, but it seems low.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to go look that up. Have our stats and info department go look it up. But it's a lot, and just when you think that it can't get any more any more dysfunctional, Mark J. Spears just dropped that apparently they're showing free agent interest in JaVale McGee. So, like when do they hit rock bottom?
They're
Do
gonna
they call
sign.
Michael Jordan's agent and ask if he wants to come out of retirement and play for them? When does this get too officially too crazy and the NBA has to step in?
They're
Jordan
just
would
gonna
still
sign
be a
Rondo
better.
and
Go
JaVale
ahead.
McGee. I said they're gonna sign Rondo and JaVale McGee and then just call it good, and then they're gonna start like promoting how they're gonna be a title contender and all this stuff.
Hmm. I can't wait. That's gonna be great to watch. Uh, Man, Sacramento. I feel bad for Sacramento fans. I legitimately do. They're
Yeah,
thinking,
me
oh,
too.
great, we got new ownership. Everybody's raving about this guy. And then, bang, like just like that, and, oh,
And who knows? He could not maybe he'll figure it out. He seems like a smart guy, and so a lot of the time it's like Bill Simmons, pour one out for him. But used to always say that like the new owners have that like crazy new owner syndrome, and they would just go out and like try and win a championship in their first 3 years, and think they knew everything, and then they start to learn, and you figure out if they're actually good or not. So he could turn it around. You don't know. And they may not trade Cousins, but right now, just the stuff that you hear from there is just not encouraging.
well, the thing is, though, the owner isn't even the crazy one here. The
Well,
crazy
right
one
now it's
is
George Karl, but I mean, they had to know what they were getting into with George Karl. This guy's notoriously like high strung. He like always ends up clashing with players at every stop. And that's what you're signing up for. And then you're bringing him into a locker room with a guy who's like very surly a lot of the time and tends to, yeah, like DeMarcus seems like a nice guy. I'm not saying anything about him, but he just seems to not necessarily always get along with people. And I think some of that stuff has been played up a little bit too much. He kind of got the reputation, and then it's just kind of like we only notice the times that he doesn't get along with people. But like you had to think that him and George Karl probably was not going to be a great mix. Is my point.
surly. Yes, I'm surly. Stop calling me Surly. No, my favorite little tidbit on George Karl was Dan Levitard saying that he looks like the leader of a nudist colony, which is, I mean, that's about as good as it gets.
I don't even know what that means.
It's a game they play on a radio show, and it's pretty great. Like they said that Jeff Van Gundy looks like the worker in a morgue who eats a sandwich as he goes through by autopsies.
Okay, that one I can see.
or Mark Stein looks like the childhood actor who didn't get any roles after he grew up. Shout out to Dan Levitard. Moving on to draft news. I mean, all week this week it's going to be, a recycling conversation. Okafor, Russell, Okafor, Porzingis. No, Russell, Okafor. So Gary, you said it earlier today. I caught your tweet that at this point, flip a damn coin and get it over with, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I've loved both of these prospects. Okafor, it's just weird to me how he keeps getting picked apart by the media. And like if you mention like one of Russell's flaws, like defensively, everybody's like, oh, he's 19 years old, he'll figure it out. It's like, but you can't say that with Okafor. It's everybody acts like Okafor's already hit his ceiling, and he can't get any better, which it's weird, so weird to me because he's 19 years old too. So they're both not perfect, but they're both really intriguing. I think they're both going to be really good NBA players. So I mean, it just depends on if you prefer a guard to go with Clarkson or another big man to go with Randall. And at this point, I'm completely fine with either.
Harrison, the thing, I think the case for Okafor is that if he pans out, if he is the low post scorer and the dominant big man that he could very well potentially be, the Lakers now stumble into a huge market inefficiency, right? Huge. That's something no team has.
Yeah, and a lot of teams don't have guys that can stop it that well, especially when they can pass out of double teams, as well as Okafor does, which was like all year whenever I watched him, that was almost the thing that was the most impressive to me was sometimes like he did get turnovers, he was a little bit too quick with the pass or like made a bad decision, but generally he was very good at just quickly, like as the focal point of their offense, just getting the ball out of his hands quickly as soon as the help was coming.
Right, and then, the case for Russell is it's a point guard league, and it's nice to have a really good point guard, right? So, Gary, what do you think about this? And I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but because the Lakers, because it is a coin flip situation, I know trading with the Sixers might not be exactly what the Lakers are hoping to do, but why not move down and just take who's ever left of those three, right? I mean, either move up and take Towns, give up an asset and take Towns, or acquire an extra asset and move down and take who's ever left of either Okafor or Russell.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how the team feels on, I guess, Okafor, because the history this franchise has had with their big men, and I mean, who knows what the Lakers are thinking? Everybody's kind of saying that they have their minds made up on Okafor, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I mean, I think that they really like Russell too. So, like, if you feel that there's not really a drop off there with those two prospects, like one's not clearly above the other one, then you might as well try and trade back to number 3 and just take whoever's there. Odds are they take Russell, like the Sixers take Russell number 2 if they are in that spot anyways, and you just take the big man that you were looking at the whole time. So it's an interesting proposition, especially if you can get I don't think you'd get the protection on the 2016 first round pick completely lifted, but if you can get it back to like a top 5 or top 10, something like that, I think it'd be worth the risk to just drop one spot.
I would completely agree. I was just trying to think of assets Philly could give up, but yeah, if they can take back some of that protection, that'd be perfect. I mean, unfortunately, KJ McDaniels isn't there anymore, so I mean that would have been something worth looking into. But that would have been fun. Harrison, would you try to trade down, and would you take the risk of going all the way down to say New York, and seeing what extra assets they might be willing to part with to get up to number 2, and bet on Philly being Philly and taking Porzingis?
um, no, I'm not willing to bet on Philly taking Porzingis, although I think it could happen. I don't know if I want to trade down to 4. It depends on what the Knicks are willing to give up. I don't know their draft pick situation for the next couple of years, and we also don't know how bad they're going to be. They could reload in free agency, or who knows? I would imagine they're going to be better next year with a healthy year out of Melo. It would be hard to imagine them being worse, but it depends on what they want to give up. But my gut feeling right now is probably no, just because. My clear top 3 is like Russell, Towns, and Okafor. And I really like at this point when the Lakers have the second pick, I would really want them to come away with one of those 3 guys. And so if you're going down to 4, you aren't necessarily guaranteed of that. I'm just not really sure that's a move that I'd want to make.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that risk either. Like dropping to number 4. I mean, you're still going to get a good player, whether it's Moutier, Winslow, Porzingis, like one of those guys. But I think, kind of like you said, like there's the top, like the consensus top 3 with those 3 guys, and I think you need to make sure that you get at least one of them. And I wouldn't even really chance it dropping to number 4 because one of them could fall, but you don't want to take that chance and miss out on, to me, the 3 guys that are, there's a separation there between them and the rest of the field.
Yeah, I mean the
And I
big
mean Porzingis is, for all we know, Porzingis is going to turn into the Dirk Durant Karolinko hybrid that Chad Ford is predicting, and he'll make this podcast look really dumb in like 5 years when people look back on it. But
is it just, or does Porzingis get taller every time Chad Ford talks about his height? Like he's going to be like 7'9" before it's all said and done.
I mean, if Kristaps winds up being a bust, do we get to call Chad Ford Poor Dingus from now on?
Okay, that might be one of your better ones.
Yeah, that was one of your better ones.
I'll take it. I will take it. So on that note, moving on, it's been quite a while since we answered reader questions, and I sent the shout out, or I sent out the request to everybody, and I told everybody we were going to be talking about Boogie and or Jahlil Okafor / Russell, and asked for some unique questions. So the first one we got, or the first one we're going to answer, comes from @TyLong33. How many free agents will the Lakers land this summer? Gary, go.
All of them.
Harrison?
7.
I'm thinking 15. Next question. We're going to go with Grant Goldberger, @Grant Goldberg, asks, were the Hawks' new jerseys made by And One?
Sure.
Harrison?
It's possible.
I mean,
it was probably made by the same people that redesigned the Clippers logo, but
I just hope, if that is the case, I want Mountain Dew Code Blue stickers on all their jerseys. All right, here's a good question though. Jacob Rude, who comes on the show or has been on the show, what are the odds on the Lakers going undefeated in the summer league if they keep the pick? Also, can I put money on it somewhere? Jacob, you can put money on damn near anything. Vegas will take almost any bet, and I don't think the odds are that great on the Lakers going undefeated. What do you think, Gary? Their first game's against Minnesota, who's going to have a pretty good team too.
Yeah, it's really hard to go undefeated, like really in any kind of tournament setting or anything like that, especially at that level of competition. There's all going to be good young players, and a lot of them that are trying to just make their way onto a roster. So, I don't think that they'll. I mean, they could, but I don't see them going undefeated. But it's not out of the realm of impossibility, I guess.
Harrison, would you bet on the Lakers going undefeated?
I don't want to bet on a bunch of new millionaires accomplishing very much anytime they go to Vegas. So I'm going to go no.
So you're not going to bet very much on us being in Vegas? Just kidding, everybody. We are not millionaires.
I might be. You don't even see my bank account.
That's a good point. Harrison, breaking news. Harrison Fagan is a millionaire, and all the strippers and cocaine are behind that tarp.
Yeah, it's my Scrooge McDuck pit.
Oh, Family Guy, when he dives into the thing, and that was great. Another good question here. This is actually a serious question. At Lakers Network asks, will Kobe's ultra intensity to win help or hinder the number 2 pick in Randall's development? Harrison, I think there's a good possibility that might happen.
Uh, do I think it'll help or hinder? I think
Yeah,
I think Randall, I get the sense that it will help. He seems to have the disposition for it. I think for whoever they pick, it's going to depend. Randall, just when you hear him talk, I think he could probably take it. Kobe screaming at him in practice. The other guys, who know? We just don't know yet. Russell, I think it could. Russell could go one of two ways. He seems like a pretty headstrong guy himself. He's either going to take that very well or he's going to take that very badly. And so we don't really know. Okafor said that he'd love it, but that almost like sounded like agent speak when he was talking.
right.
And then, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
the thing with Okafor is that he lost his mom, I believe, at a really young age, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you go through that type of adversity and you deal with, that kind of blow, anything that happens on a basketball court can't be that hard. So when you have Kobe screaming at you, calling you soft as Charmin, you kind of put that into perspective and say, you know what, dude, I've been through quite a bit in my lifetime, so you can go ahead and calm down a little bit. I actually like Okafor's ability to cope with that a little bit better than most prospects. What do you think, Gary? Help or hinder?
Well, Randall, I know it'll help because Randall, I think he's kind of wired the same way as Kobe. And I mean, he's kind of talked about it, and I just, the way his personality is, and the way he wants to work, and like he's fully committed to basketball and winning. Like, I don't have any worries when it comes to that with Randall. Okafor, I would imagine he would handle it just fine. He comes from two winning cultures in high school. He was on one of the best high school teams in the country, and then he won a national championship last year, and so he knows, kind of understands a little bit about winning, and I mean, like with Kobe's track record, you almost like listen to him. Like, it might not make you happy that he's yelling at you, but it's like the guy won 5 championships for a reason, so and I think Russell would actually take it really well, because Russell, I think, is a lot like Kobe with that same mentality. Like, he's kind of cocky, but I love that about him. He's just like ultra confident, and I think he would just handle it well. He might actually yell back at Kobe, and I think Kobe would love that.
It would be.
I definitely hope that we get some vines of that.
I'm sorry, guys. There's like all the flies are flying into my damn room right now, and I just keep swatting them away. So I swear I'm not telling like your point's worthless unless you're Gary talking about geese. But aside from that, all right. I guess we'll go.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you guys think that it would help or hinder your development to have Kobe screaming at you over, like, let's say you're writing or something?
Well, I grew up idolizing Kobe. I grew up idolizing Kobe, so I almost like would feel honored if he decided to yell at me.
I could just see it like, Gary, what the hell are you doing over there?
Like, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Smacks you upside your head. Ping pong ball. I don't know. I never really responded. I've told a coach to F off before, so probably don't want to come to me for that question.
Did you go full?
I feel like 19-year-old me would have lost it at Kobe for yelling at him if he was yelling at me. But I mean, you guys know about that.
Yeah, I was the one that was always yelling at my teammates in practice and stuff. So I guess I would understand where it's coming from.
You guys should see the group DM between all of us. Gary just spends the whole time cussing at all of us, like all the time.
Oh, it's a lot of caps lock. A lot of caps lock.
Ryan's cried before. I feel really bad.
Instead of the crying emoji, he just took a picture of him looking into the camera like. We have, speaking of Ryan, at JNav Sports, Johnny Navarrete asks, chances the Lakers trade the number 2 pick for Novak. I mean, if Ryan's our GM, that happens yesterday, right?
Yeah, I would say low. but you can't rule it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Ryan were here, he would say there's no chance that the Thunder or wherever the hell Novak is playing now is that deal.
If they did that, I'd have to discount double check their logic. I'll just go that. I'll just say that. We'll do one or two. We'll do two more. We have at Sean LAL16 asks, do you think Jordan Clarkson should stay at point guard or should he be moved to shooting guard? Stupid flies. That matters completely as to who they select, right? If they take D'Angelo Russell, they just go with the 2 point guard backcourt, and both guys are just combo guards, right?
Yeah, I don't see why they have to decide now, no matter who they take. I say you let him play both. I think that one of his strengths is that he can do both. There are players that have made careers being able to switch between the two. So I don't see why you have to. That was the thing that irritated me about the discourse about Clarkson last year. Was like, oh, he's not a true PG. Like, well, okay, there are a lot of guys that have had successful careers not being what you would call a true PG, and. So I don't see why you have to pigeonhole him. I think that that versatility is a strength.
Gary?
Yeah, it ultimately depends on the personnel around him. I don't think you construct a roster, with him set in stone at one spot. You're just at this point, the Lakers are just trying to gather like whatever talent that they can get. So say they draft like Russell, then obviously they're both big enough to where they can play the 1 or the 2. So you have options there. And if you go and you sign a guy like Dragic, you can put Dragic to the 1 and Clarkson to the 2. And Dragic just played off guard too. He played alongside Eric Bledsoe. I know he didn't really like it that much, but
yeah, that didn't go so well.
Yeah, but he's going to get plenty of touches on this. Like if he signed with the Lakers, he'd be a focal point in this offense. So, like you kind of assemble the roster however you please, and then you kind of decide that later on.
Yeah, I don't see any problem ever with being versatile in any job for him. So basketball is no exception. Let the kid play wherever he feels comfortable and go from there.
Yeah, it's like we just had Powell a couple of years ago, and like he was arguably a center, but he started at power forward a lot for the Lakers, and like he could play both, and that's valuable especially when a coach is making rotations. If he's trying to get guys minutes, you can keep them on the floor for longer or be more flexible in your rotations if guys can play multiple positions.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're a shooting guard, like you're the 2 on the floor, you don't have to play that way. You can still handle the ball and run pick and rolls and all that stuff. Kobe, throughout his whole career has handled the ball plenty as a 2 guard, and the point guard, Derek Fisher or whoever, didn't handle it nearly as much. So just because you're a certain position doesn't mean you have to play a certain way. Plus, might be better for him to defensively guard shooting guards instead of the faster, quicker point guards in the league right now.
I just think at the end of the day, it's about checking boxes off of what you hope for from a position, right? So can you see the floor well? Yes. Can you stay in front of the person that you're guarding? Yes. Can you hit an outside shot when needed? Yes. So long as he continues to check all those boxes, who cares where he plays?
Exactly.
Byron, listen to this stuff. We actually sound smart right now. Last question comes from Matt Paulito, huge friend of the website and of the show. He asks, question, which player would you pick in the best case scenario with the number 27 pick? And he just ends it with, why is Justin Anderson? So I'm just going to ignore that last bit because there wasn't a last little bit to it. So, Gary, you're going to be our expert here at number 27. Absolute best case scenario is Jahlil Okassell at number 27, right?
Yeah, I guess his question kind of goes hand in hand because to me the best case scenario is having Justin Anderson fall to number 27, even though I don't think he will. I think Draft Express and their mock draft has him there, but I think he's going to go. He might go top 20. Like he's not. I just can't see him falling that far. So maybe a guy like DeLon Wright, or maybe like Anthony Brown. like there's a couple guys, but typically you're going to want to get a perimeter type player, like a 1, 2, or a 3.
Now, Gary, this is one of the rare occasions where I'm willing to say you are vastly more knowledgeable on something than me, aside from Geese. Um, why is Robert Upshaw not being drafted anymore in a lot of mock drafts?
Well, there's a lot of red flags with him. He's had the off-court issues. There was like a reported drug problem. I mean, he was kicked off of, I believe it was Fresno State and then Washington's basketball programs. And then recently there was this reported like heart issue, like he's got something going on with his heart, but I guess like he's been cleared to play, and like there's just a lot of questions around him. I mean, the talent's there, and he's a really good shot blocker, really just excellent size for his position, but there's just a lot of red flags around him right now. So it's really hard. Like if he falls to the Lakers at 34, I think it'd be worth taking a shot on him, because you're not going to it's hard to get really good value right there. So, but I mean, that's why he's fallen. There's just a lot of red flags around him right now.
So given everything you just heard Gary describe about the player, Harrison, because I know you pay about as much attention to that part of the draft as I do, given everything he just described, a great shot blocker, all that stuff, doesn't that feel like the perfect pairing for a front court to come off the bench with a front court like the Lakers might have?
I remember, like, with if it was just all the off-court stuff that they were talking about, then yeah, I think you definitely, like, you take a chance on him there, because, like, nobody is, like, a completed person at that age, and you can still improve. But if you're throwing the heart issue in the mix, then at the same time, I can understand why they wouldn't want to be the franchise that, like, drafted this guy, and that if there's, like, something sketchy going on with his heart, and then he ends up, like, having issues down the road, or he has, like, an issue, like, God forbid, an issue, like, while he's playing. I don't know the extent of the heart problem. I just know that there was a reported one. And so I can understand being worried about taking a player with, like, that type of medical issue. But as long as, like, if they get good medical reports and supposedly, like, and if he's cleared, then, like, yeah, I think that's good. He sounds like he's good value at 34, because just a month ago, everybody was like, he was everybody's dream late first-round pick. So, yeah, if they can get the health stuff cleared, then I think, yeah, you take a chance.
But, I mean, I understand the risk that you're talking about and mitigating against the risk of a Hank Gathers situation where you have a guy, die on your court. I understand that. But isn't the upside to that, hey, this guy turns it around and overcomes a heart issue in Los Angeles to live up to anything close to his potential upside? I'm with you, Gary. If he gets anywhere near the Lakers at 34, by all means, guys. I mean, you guys, this is something I talked with Jameson Welsh on last show, but the Lakers are in a situation now where they can be a little bit, more loose with their picks, right? When they picked Clarkson at late in the draft last year, after buying it for what was $1.8 million, I'm not going to say they were banking on Clarkson turning into the player he turned into, but I mean they really needed an asset there. That's not the case here. If you completely whiff at 34, whatever, move on. Just buy another pick, right, Gary?
Well, especially if you draft Okafor at 2, I mean, it's like you just kind of bought yourself some insurance there, because you're not asking a lot out of Upshaw. Basically, you want him to just be kind of that shot blocker, defensive anchor off the bench, and that's really what his main attribute is. He blocked 4.5 shots a game last year at Washington. So, I mean, like if you draft Okafor, there's really that diminishes a lot of the risk that goes with taking him. So. I'd be all for it, and that means that you can, he's kind of like your backup center, and you don't really have to worry about signing Ed Davis and using cap space to bring him back.
Sounds good to me, boss. So that does it for all the questions that we received. Thank you guys a lot for that, and again, thank you so much for all the support we continue to get from all the listeners and readers and Steve Novak fans out there. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I want to go with a game. You have one word, Harrison, to surmise or summarize this entire week leading up to the draft, what would you use to compile everything up into one single word?
Rumors.
Perfect. Gary, do you have one?
Sparta, because it's not madness, it's Sparta.
I'm going sauces because I'm hungry and it sounds like sources from New York. All right, so unless you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, I'm good on my end.
I just wanted to address, Polito had a second question about, I don't know if you guys saw Mark Heisler's article about Okafor being a power forward because he's too short or something like that. Like, I guess he measured like 6'9.5" without shoes or something. I don't think he's gonna have to worry about being a power forward, especially with the NBA the way it is right now. It's such a small ball league. I mean, he's gonna be fine. And his post game is good. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. Like he's gonna be a center in this league. And as far as that article goes, I don't think there's much to worry about with that.
I
Yeah,
love.
I
Oh, go ahead, Harrison.
I haven't heard about any proposed rule changes where like they're gonna start playing without shoes. So I don't know that his height without shoes is as relevant.
Well, he got measured at the Nike Hoop Summit, like the high school kind of all-star game, like the USA versus the world team, and he measured 6'11" with shoes. So it's like he's not gonna play basketball without shoes. So it's not a big deal.
I mean, we hope.
Unless you're Gerald Green in the sun.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Well, we could have a Ronnie Price situation where Okafor takes his shoe off and throws it at somebody.
Hey, that's just versatility. He could play in or like out of shoes.
Yeah,
that's like Price. What we're talking about.
Ronnie Price, the MacGyver of NBA players. You just make best with what you got.
Maybe the Cavs.
I can imagine
maybe the
Ronnie
Cavs should
Price.
have done that more often.
I can imagine
that was part of my thinking with Ronnie Price locking up Jerry West. He has shoes to throw at the guy, like, duh. All right. Well, yeah. On that note, with starting point guard Ronnie Price throwing shoes at the logo. That's quite the visual to end our show on tonight. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Harrison and Gary, for dealing with this madness. We had George Carl leading a nudist colony and all kinds of great stuff tonight. So I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.